everybody. Okay, let's get going. Let's start with this. Let's see. Happy birthday, Navy. 250 years. 250 years on this 1,892 days that Richard was forcibly removed from his barracks room, and he was taken to a soundproof room, and they took his life. They took his life and brutally took his life, and then they stole his body, and they trafficked his body. And we have been fighting for 5 years. Fight. And President Trump is absolutely leading the way now. As something we've been waiting for. We knew we had faith in our country. We, of course, number one, faith in God, faith in our country, that it would come through, that we would come through this, and we would get this institutional support. And this is overwhelming institutional support. There's so much that I have to tell you all about the overwhelming institutional support. And it always is something that you don't expect, right? That you don't expect that it just shows you the brilliance of President Trump. He really is brilliant. He's just amazing, energized bunny, right? Because he never stops. He just never stops. And we're trying to keep up with him. We're trying to keep up with understanding everything going on and keep identifying the crime that we find in our investigation, because our investigations haven't stopped. Because this administration absolutely is, fellow servants in this, okay? And we can't let them do this alone. We just absolutely can't. And the reason why we feel that way is because we know the level of criminality that was allowed to develop and seep into our system to try to take over our country, and take over our culture, take over like just the humanity of things, right? With their crime ideology, their absolute anti-God ideology. They're very anti-God. Matter of fact, they are. They use everything, and you're going to find out in the next few days too, because the news is coming in so fast. We can't put up the posts fast enough because we have to make sure that we understand the news coming in. But they are deceivers. They are imposters. They are imposters, and they are deceivers, and they are absolute monsters, just living lives of monsters, and preying on people, all kinds of people, from the elderly all the way to in the womb, all the way. They're just preying on people. They're just like vampires. They're just worse than that. They're just total subhuman monsters. And And President Trump, of course, has been on the receiving end of these monsters, and we've been on the receiving end. And of course, our son has was on the receiving end, and his life was taken. And Charlie Kirk was on the receiving end, and there's a lot of stuff going around with that. A lot of, oh my gosh, just so much stuff around the assassination of Charlie Kirk. It's just really revealing. I don't know. I don't know. I really don't. It is really crazy stuff. And so, time, you have to be very patient with everything. At the very beginning of our son's case, they were telling us lies, and we were like, this is the most absurd thing, but we didn't know. We didn't know all of what we know today. And so time, being patient is very, very important. But also fight, working very hard to identify. You have to investigate. No one's going to investigate for you, okay? Not at this level, no. They're not. They might say it, but they just want the tax money. They're not going to do it. And it is the fight. You have to prove yourself. That's what we've learned through this, is to investigate and prove yourself. You have to drive them to do the right thing. And and in our son's case, it includes the President of the United States. I don't know what would have happened. I don't even want to think about it. What ifs? Right now, we're in this situation where President Trump is indeed the President of the United States. That comes as the most powerful man in the world. That's the kind of power he has. He is the most powerful man in the world. And you see that with him celebrating America's Navy, right? America's Navy today, 250 years. Very, very powerful. Our Navy is super powerful. And when you look back at the history of it, starting with a secret, George Washington kept it a secret, the funding and the building of the Navy. And because there was so much opposition, but he saw what was coming. And we are here today as the United States of America because of George Washington. And we are in this situation now to keep our republic. This opportunity to keep our republic. Remember that Benjamin Franklin said, a republic is magnificent because it's freedom, right? It is freedom. A republic, not a democracy, a republic. And you have to keep it because it's so, people don't like it. People don't like the common people having freedom of speech, having freedom to bear arms. All of the freedoms that come with the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and the humanity of it. It's just, so humane, and just protects children and protects, the Bible is the most pro-children, pro-woman standard, I would say, the codex, right? The codex for it when it comes to how women should be treated, and inheritance laws and all of that, that is what our republic is built on, and it's been chipped away. And with a lot of psyops, through music, through movies, through books, through the enemies. The enemy has a lot of ways to deceive us away from the codex of God, right? that protects children so much, protects women so much, protects men, right? Families, and it forms a republic, these spheres of government with oversight. And this is what President Trump is wielding. This is what he is wielding right now as the chief law enforcer, uh, the president of the United States, the commander in chief. He's just wielding this magnificent sword of freedom right now. And he has declared war, hasn't he? He has declared war on those that want to take away our freedoms, those that want to rob us of everything, even our children, our liberties, our way of life, our everything, of our military, of our navy, of our army. They're just like grasshoppers that want to chop everything down. They want to rob everything. And President Trump is absolutely leading the way by declaring war on non-international combatants. This is really important because these people have no allegiance to a country. They're not in a uniform, right? They're not in a uniform with a flag on their shoulder. I've sewed a lot of those patches. I ironed a lot of those uniforms. And they're not wearing them. They're not. These are, they don't get the protection of the Geneva Convention, of the POW laws, because they're just rogue. They're just rogue criminals. And so with that, it's not totally simple that President Trump and his administration, including our military, can go after them wherever they're at. There is rules governing that, and that comes from the Bible too. You're not allowed to really have urban warfare. God doesn't really allow that. That's why warfare was always like in a field. And you have all these battles that were in fields, open land, because God said you couldn't have this urban warfare and blow up cities, and where innocent people would lose their life, and stuff, and buildings that took a long time to build would be ruined, and infrastructure like water, like fuel, like the infrastructure, or even sacred areas. God doesn't allow those to be destroyed. He doesn't allow fruit trees, nut trees, things like this to be destroyed, because he's humanitarian, right? He loves life overall, and if there is a war, he has laws that guard that. And we've ignored that. In modern times, we have descended. We haven't progressed. We've descended. If you want to go into the future, you have to go into the past to really get progression. And anyway, that's another discussion. But so President Trump has done something so extraordinary. He has, of course, revealed the Plenitude crematorium, where these bodies, this cartel rotting body graveyard. This is no accident that this was in the news, because in Mexico, the state controls the news, the media. And so they had to be driven to cover this, that they found over 400 rotting bodies that had been recycled and trafficked, and family members were given fake ashes, like just kind of ground stone in urns, and that was connected to the mortuary and funeral homes in El Paso, and also to the Pan Party. That means Mauro Campos, the governor there, who had employed General Kelly. General Kelly, yes, the four-star general, General Kelly, um, and also employed Alejandra de la Vega, um, from El Paso, which is, this is just so illegal, um, because it was Alejandra de la Vega, working for the very criminal Maru Campos of the Pan Party there in Chihuahua, Mexico, that requested César Peniche to come and be the Attorney General in Chihuahua from Mexico City. Okay. And there is the Mormon faction cartel-tied connection with all of them. Okay. And of course, Alejandra de la Vega is the wife of Paul Foster. Um, and of course, they're together. They're the power brokers with Woody Hunt, the criminal Mormon faction cartel-tied leader, running that borderland, all those borderland crimes, funding it big time, billions. And so, you're like, okay, we got this, we understand this. We got the letters from President Trump. And that was after Peniche's, and we didn't know this at the time, after AG César Peniche's house had been raided. Not a house. It's not a house. It's a mansion. It is a huge mansion, because he had just made loads of money through his partnership with Carvel, with the energy company Carvel. It has a Mexican name, and I don't know how to say it, but it's Carvel, and they exploded in their success. Um, with all of their gas stations, right? With all their gas stations in Mexico. And, to have a partnership with the Attorney General of Chihuahua, that covered up this crematorium. And we know this because the first time this was all addressed is when Rob went over to Juarez. I stayed in El Paso, but he went over with our son, Richard's brother, to give blood, to give DNA. AG César Peniche, we have confirmed, tampered with our son's case to obstruct justice. And he's on record of tampering with our son's case and obstructing justice. So this is not, a suspicion. This is a confirmation. And, and we know that El Mayo's attorney, Ray Velarde, was assigned to Richard, right? We know that Richard was such a threat to them that they would go to these extremes to steal his body and traffic his body, participate in one of the biggest cover-ups, right? with so many agencies involved in this. And then even now with the Mexican agencies being involved in this. So it's very international. And so, why was Richard so threatening? He wanted to be a CIA agent, and he told me, he said, "Mom, it is really bad. It is really bad," and he was fearing for his life. And he kept a journal. He, so and he was documenting things, and he was in communication with the authorities and to Washington, D.C. And at the end, he even had to call 911 multiple times. So, did we, the you could ask so many questions during that time with COVID and all the craziness. Gosh, I hate the COVID stuff. I hate it. It was used to do so much harm. And, but, you can't look back. You've got to look forward. And President Trump is looking forward. And he has exposed not only this absolute hellhole, Plenitude Crematorium, and the connections that it had even with Fort Bliss Mortuary, with Solomon Nusa as mortuary operations. But it's also connected to Mario Campos and her mother, Maria Eugenia Galvan, with no oversight. Okay, so they were all in on it, letting this go and collecting all of this COVID money for humanitarian burials and cremations and that, and then recycling it and going back and forth and, collecting whatever they could, and even on VA benefits and things like this. So, yeah, thank you. Thank you, Laura. Thank you so much. Thank you, Christine. Thank you. Good evening to you. And thank you for coming on so late. It's almost 1 o'clock in the morning here, but it's we've gotten so much information because all of the evidence is coming together, and President Trump, because he has, this intelligence, right? He's the most powerful man in the world, right? He has all kinds of intelligence connections, and so he has driven um, uh, the raid on Cesar Peniche's mansion in the most luxurious area of Juarez. Um, I didn't go there, of course. I went to the places that were pretty terrible. But his mansion is one of the best ones there. It was raided. Um, he's in the United States now. He ran. He didn't even stay in Mexico. But he was partners with this energy Carvel, and some individuals in this, and to steal fuel, to tap into pipelines, um, and other ways to steal fuel, and then to launder that illegal activity through his knowledge of paperwork and his business dealings and things like that, in order to sell it to his gas stations, open up all kinds of gas stations. But even worse than that, so the fuel, a lot of it comes from the national fuel line. In Mexico, it's still national, and that money is then profited and to go back into the country. This was stolen and then sold to each and every state. And it happens to be in Chihuahua, and Chihuahua had exclusive deals with Carvel. Um, so buying the fuel from them, can you imagine? Can you imagine how evil this is? And that fuel has to be stored somewhere, right? And this is where the Mormon factions come in and everything. So, but there's also stealing from Fort Bliss, fuel from Fort Bliss. This is, you cannot have one without the other. They work together. They absolutely work together across the border. And this is huge because it's stealing from Americans, it's stealing from Mexicans to enrich a few in order for them to buy very fancy cars, which she's, in doing picture ops with all his cars. Maybe that Danielle lady with all her fleet of cars had something to do with this. I don't know. Um, she had a lot of cars, though, and inexpensive cars, very expensive cars. When your car costs $300,000, that's an expensive car. When you have loads of them, and then half of them are disability veteran, so you don't have to pay taxes. I mean, the cost of just keeping that kind of fleet is huge. Anyway, but César Peniche, he had a lot of cars. He had a big old mansion. And it was from theft. It was from theft. And he's just up to no good. So, and very connected to the Mormon faction criminal syndicate. That's tied at the hip, whatever, fused at the hip, whatever you want to say, to the cartel. So, this is for President Trump to raid his house, for these stories to go out. He can now charge so many for this crime. It's really, he's so smart, because the cover up of Richard is pretty difficult to try to prosecute. So this is we'll take it. We'll take the fuel. Well, we have to think of how many people this fuel theft smuggling hurt. So many. And absolutely, Richard's whistleblowing reports are tied to this, because this is the billion-dollar business, okay? This is billions of dollars, y'all. So you're talking about billions of dollars in human trafficking, billions of dollars in this fuel smuggling. The weapons come with it, the substances, all of the drugs and stuff. So, President Trump is really driving all of this out, so much so that the Mexican president came to Chihuahua and took power away from Maru Campos. Okay, she took her power away, and this is where this is going. Looks very positive for people, and I just want to come on here and encourage everybody for that support, because who wants this small group of cartel no gooders to steal fuel from us. Look at the fuel costs right now. There's no wonder why the fuel costs are so high when the pipelines are being tapped into, and they're stealing it, right? And so that's probably another reason why President Trump is looking at this, investigating this, um, and really exposing this all. And the news should be all over this. But of course, the news are complicit. The media is complicit with this very criminal group. They want to protect criminals. Um, and of course, because you have these power brokers that own El Paso Matters, that own Texas Tribune, that own USA Today, that are up to no good, that are part of this, right? So they're going to use their media to protect themselves. Um, so that's why I'm coming on every day to encourage everybody, to let them know what's going on, um, and to pass this information around, to share this information around. And that's just the fuel smuggling that's going on. Of course, we have the Venezuela, all of the drugs that President Trump is absolutely not tolerant of at all, because it's killing so many and ruining our families and our culture and our country and everything. So this is very positive moves, because with every step of justice, dominoes fall or truth rises up, and then others get justice. So it's not just our son's case that we're, wanting his remains given back to us, those individuals held accountable, but other dominoes are falling against um, uh, people that are like acting criminally, acting like cartel, like John Briggs and his wife. John Briggs and his wife. Now we received a letter passed on to us that went to the Texas State Bar. I posted that up. It was just amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that information with us. The person that filed that state bar complaint against John Briggs and John Briggs' wife, that were acting like, I mean, are they like a DA's office cartel of two? Um, you know, uh, the amount of interference in cases for their own personal gain, to obstruct justice for others, allow people to get fired. And, it's just, please read it. But the whole point of it is we know that John Briggs is up to no good. We know that he was fired, and as soon as Bill Hicks came in, that he brought him back in, the criminal, with with the cartel member, to be in the DA's office. And of course, Bill Hicks was rogue. He was a usurper. I called him the usurper. And of course, now Montoya, with his whole namesake and everything. He might be from the Canadians, the Canadians coming down. It's just so vague, everything, and so sloppy. And then he does the 2028 stamp. He's a rogue DA. They don't have a legitimate DA's office. That's the point. They don't have a legitimate DA's office, and they don't have it on purpose, because we have filed. It's absolutely known to them that they have all these problems, and they like it. They like it with it broken, because they don't want to be prosecuted, and they don't they like it that the judges in the MAG court are broken, that they're imposters, that they're impersonating, because they don't want to be prosecuted. They don't want to be judged. and they like it that the chief medical examiner and is not qualified, that the El Paso ISD chief of police is not qualified. They like it. They like a broken system because they want to do their crime with impunity, and they don't want the truth to come out. They don't want true justice. It's very, very plain and clear. But that's all changing. That is all changing, and so keep sharing. Do not sit on your laurels. This is a huge fight, 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 and we are, you know, battle buddies with the Trump administration. He's willing to fight for us. We're willing to fight along with him for justice and everything that he's doing. I can tell you, uh, is there, uh, will there be some kind of strategy mistakes, or will there be, absolutely. But the results, the direction that he's aiming for is amazing. And, um, uh, you know, uh, uh, it's to see Peniche, Attorney General with that much power and connection to the United States, um, have his mansion raided and have him, his business partner, the energy carvel, to be called out like it is. That was stealing billions of pesos of barrels of oil, of petrol. It's just that's a beautiful thing to see, and to have those reports. They're not reported on enough, but we are a government of the people, by the people, for the people, so we can share that information. And the information about John Briggs, with his wife tampering with cases. I'm so sick and tired of that. These people make a lot of money, and they don't care one little bit about their oath of or their ethics or whatever, and they need to be prosecuted for their breach of trust, and their not giving us our services that we pay them. We pay them with our taxpayer money, and they're not giving us our services. Um, so they need to be prosecuted for all the evil that they're doing in that DA's office. That's John Briggs and his wife. I forget what her name is. I'll remember it tomorrow. But yeah, that is another. And then there's so many other news. Let me make sure. Oh yeah, with the fuel thing, it's kind of tying Kyle Eswick. Um, with this. Remember, he is the exotic dancer, they call. He's a stripper. He's a male stripper, connected with this group. Of course, the owner of Richard's vehicle, connected to A&R Chavira, connected to, of course, Lilani Hart and all of them. So, it's, and here he is, a fuel distributor. Gosh, I mean, really, really, I mean, it's so clear. All the evidence is coming together. So let me read some of the comments. Um, Thank you. Oh yeah, they want it to be so bad, like Sodom and Gomorrah. I hear COVID is making a comeback. More organ trafficking, like the um it is a very bad thing that I'm supposed to be reporting on, and I've been mentioning it, but I haven't put it up quite yet, and I will this week, about the organ, um, trafficking, and worse and worse. Um, so on another note, I got hired. Oh, good. That's wonderful. Um, yeah. So just keep going. Never, ever, ever give up. Because sometimes, even at the lowest point, you think, oh my gosh, this is what is going on. And a new day comes, and a new day comes, and look at where we're at right now. We really, um, I wish I could tell you everything, but I can tell you this: President Trump would never have sent us those two letters, those two magnificent letters, if he didn't have the answers already. Okay. He knows what's going on. And that's why he sent us those letters. And now he is putting out I want to call them breadcrumbs, but it's more than breadcrumbs. You have to find it, you have to do the work. Um, the uh, Seeing these articles and what's going on in Mexico, that is all of our investigative work, putting together what he's doing. So, you know, you've got to keep going, and you've got to participate, um, and not anticipate, participate, and then make sure that you know that everything's in God's hands, and I just want to encourage people with that, especially on this 250th birthday of the U.S. Navy. Can you believe it? Very few countries are as old as our country. We're so old now. We're the oldest country because they don't have a really good government system. So they have to keep on reinventing themselves. But we have this beautiful U.S. Constitution. We have a republic if we can keep it, right? And we're fighting, fighting, fighting to do it, for our freedoms, for our rights. And we really appreciate you being fellow fighters with us, fellow battle buddies, to get the word out. And I just want to thank the certain people that sent the State Bar letter to us. Thank you so much for keeping us in the loop when you're doing things like that, because we know that John Briggs was up to no good in our son's case. So thank you so much for that. That's really going to help because of our cases that are coming up. So thank you so much. God bless you, and I will be back tomorrow, God willing.